bosses. Happy New Year, y'all. It's not going live yet. This always happens. Okay, I think we are actually live. Happy New Year, besties and bosses. Happy Tuesday. First Tuesday. Is this the first Tuesday of the year? Yeah, last Tuesday was the holiday. I missed y'all. I know in the email it said I was traveling back from upstate New York. That's where I was supposed to go for the holidays. But we actually got hit with the big storm that was going on here, and our travel got delayed and delayed and delayed. So we ended up staying in the city. So my husband and I have something, I just have a snack, I have something on my lips. My husband and I ended up staying in the city and had a really lovely, quiet Christmas here and kind of New York City Christmas, which was really fun. We were able to get a spot, one of the restaurants close by that was completely booked out. We were able to snag a bar spot. I absolutely manifested that. It was pretty wonderful and a lovely evening. Then we were able to get a reservation at another hotel spot we wanted to go to. So not our planned Christmas holiday, but it was very wonderful. I don't know if any of you all got affected by the weather. I'd love to hear how your holiday was, but we didn't change, obviously, the emails that went out. So I was not traveling, but we did skip the live last week. So I missed y'all because we're live every week unless I'm traveling usually, and I'm so used to getting to hang with you. So very happy to be here. I am going to make sure just while I'm chit-chatting here that this did show up in the group because we've had some issues with Facebook, and what I did on our the last live of the year where I was talking about my lessons and breakdowns from, is this in the group? From making $1 million in 4 years in revenue. So I went live on my business page instead of in the group. So I'm just seeing here. I don't actually see myself. And I want to make sure we are actually in the group. I'm assuming that I'm live in the group. Let's see. And I apologize. I know this kind of delays us getting started, but it says I'm live and it says okay. I can't see it in the group, but hopefully this will pop up when one of you all see me. I will just do this as well. Make sure we're all good. Once y'all can see me, let me know and say hi, and I'll hope that it is popping up in the group for you as well, but it says so on my side. So today, I'm happy to be back with you. We've got giveaways, and then we're going to dive into talking about planning for the year ahead, what works, what doesn't work, what you can look at, whether you're looking to make your first 6 figures in this year, your next 6 figures, multi 6 figures, 7 figures. These are the conversations I'm having with clients behind the scenes, really every time of the year, but I find the beginning of the year, kind of end of December, these are a lot of the conversations that were going on. So I'm going to break that down a little bit. We're going to talk about the way I think about money goals in particular. I have some thoughts on that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of just the practical, strategic things we're looking at to really set yourself up for success next year. I have clients who literally blow their own damn minds. We'll use some client examples there who come in and are like, will I ever be able to book a client and hit 6 figures in 3 months and get fully booked out and add 100K or 500K or $1 million to their revenue. So we're going to talk about what some of those things are. They're pretty simple, they're pretty practical, but I want to have a practical conversation around that. And then I'm also going to talk about the shadow side of planning, because I talk a lot about how planning is an important part of creating success in your business. I know studies show, Brendon Burchard actually wrote a book called, and I cannot think of the name of it, High Performance Habits maybe. And he talks about they did a bunch of studies across successful people, and one of the things they found is successful people do empirically spend more time planning. And I think this is something we forget in our online space sometimes, and we sometimes forget about treating business like a business, and these are just facts. This is just data. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then also the shadow side of that I see come up for clients at different stages of business. So a lot we're going to dig into today. I still can't tell if I'm live, but I can see a reaction. Okay, you're live. Let me know if you have questions as we're going through this. As a thank you for being here, we always do a giveaway for joining me. I appreciate you spending your time with me. This week, we are giving away one coaching session, a 100K CEO mindset and strategy session. This is a full-length session. I think this will be the last one of these we're giving away. We are going to be giving away some mini coaching sessions this year. I want very intentionally to give away as many of those as we have space and capacity for in my calendar. I cannot promise that'll be a year-long thing. We're definitely doing that in January and February. We'll do a whole nother live stream on that as to why I want to, but short version of that is there's just, I think, a lot of noise in our space right now around wanting to make things almost like we deserve it behind closed doors and people should just hand over money for coaching without having any concept of what that's going to look like, without sales pages, without showing up for sales calls. I don't know, there's just a lot going on that I personally want to be a stand against. So I'm fully booked. We don't always have time for that, but we're going to find ways to the best of my ability to offer more of those. So they will be mini sessions. I don't know how many more of the full sessions we're going to get to give away, but we are today. So all you have to do is leave a comment, say hi, let me know you are with me, and we will pick winners. Usually we pick them on Friday. We'll DM you and reach out with you for that. We also have a masterclass this month, a free masterclass to kick off the new year. This might be my favorite masterclass I've ever done. It is brand new material. It is something I've only shared with my private mastermind that I ran last year with long-term clients, and I have not shared this material publicly. We are going to turn this into a paid mini course, so it is a great time to sign up and get in for free. It's called Leverage Your Millionaire Money Blueprint, leverage your unique millionaire money blueprint, because it is specific to you. We are going to look at your money blueprint, your healthy and unhealthy expression and relationship with money, and help you to see what your default blueprint is in terms, what that means is what you were raised around, what society, what you kind of have by default as your relationship with money, and then how to rewrite that and set that up in a way that serves you to reach your specific healthy relationship with money. We're going to break all of that down. I'm really excited. I think the playbook for this in particular is like one of the best ones we've ever done. I will drop a link for that because I don't know it off the top of my head. I think it's kimmargetsinger.com, maybe millionaire. I'll get the link for it and we'll drop it afterwards. And then, gosh, I've got all the announcements. Other announcement is we do have a coaching intensive available this month. If you have been kind of on the fence thinking about working with me, I do tend to be fully booked. Now is a great time to book a discovery call and chat with me. I do have an intensive open this month, and I would love to support you, whether that is looking at your business plan for the year or looking at your money goals for the year or looking at really practically breaking down your messaging, your marketing, your sales for the year so that you know how to reach six figures or multi six figures or seven figures. That's what intensive is really great for. So I will drop a discovery call link for that. Okay, those are all my announcements. I always want to drop those in first because otherwise I forget. Let's talk planning, what works, what doesn't work, how to think about planning. And I'm just going to hope that this is in the group. It's so weird, y'all, because I literally can't, when I go to the group, see myself live anywhere. But it says we're live, so we're hoping that. And if you're live, say hello. I would love to know you're here. So planning, what works, what doesn't work. I think this is such an interesting topic, and in some ways I almost didn't want to talk about it because it's one of those things where it's like I think we're almost inundated with it this time of year where we can almost start to glaze over. But I did want to speak about this because it is so important. It is something we see successful people spend more time doing. And similarly with goals, I don't know what the stats are. I used to know this off the top of my head. Someone can Google it and put it in the comments, but you are exponentially more likely to reach a goal if you set it, if you write it down. When it comes to money goals, just by getting clear on that and writing that every day, you're so much more likely to reach that goal. This is a silly example, but I think it's a relevant one. My husband last year set a goal to read 50 books for the year. He read something like 113 books last year in 2022. And I know had he not set that goal and not been really intentional with that, he would have still read a lot. But the truth is he probably would have read 25 books because it just wouldn't have been on his dashboard. It wouldn't have been a focal point. What you focus on expands. And he wouldn't have set up process goals and really clear specific steps to help him reach that goal, and he wouldn't have gotten clear on what was getting in his way to reach that goal and then surpass it. And the same is true in business. I think our pendulum swings so much around goal setting where it's either like be super strict with goal setting, set goals, use them against yourself if you don't hit them, or like almost like fuck it, we don't want to plan, we don't want to set goals, we want to just feel so good all the time that we're almost like scared to ever feel bad or to ever have a goal or to ever have any kind of healthy pressure. I think negative pressure, too much pressure absolutely damages you in business. But the truth is there is a healthy form of stress called eustress. It is a term in psychology. This is a real thing. I think we're so scared of that sometimes in business, and I think particularly in our online space right now, that we do ourselves a disservice and don't lean into the very things that practically work, that science says work, that are based in how your brain works, that just practically work to help you get what you want. And so that's what I want to talk a little bit about today and dive into. And I think we just need to have more conversations like that. So yes, I know this isn't like the sexiest topic. Everyone's talking about planning, and also there's a reason for it. So when it comes, I want to talk about income goals for a moment and then really how to reach those income goals and what I'm chatting with clients about. I was talking about this with a client yesterday, I think. We were talking about how a lot of people don't want to set income goals. They don't want to set money goals because it makes them feel bad, because it puts pressure on their business. And trying to think of how I want to phrase this. Of course, if I have a client where if we're looking at money that is so stressful and so overwhelming that it's going to be deregulating for them and stress them out and do more harm than good and have them want to bury their head in the sand to look at money and to look at numbers, of course we're not going to set an income goal. We're going to address what's coming up there. We're going to solve the right problem, as my coach always says, and really look at why does this feel so stressful? Why is this kicking up all of this inner turmoil? Why does this feel so deregulating? What's going on there? And we are going to do that work to really ideally get to a neutral place where we can talk about money and where we can set money goals, because the truth is money is a neutral thing. And in business, it is a metric that matters in your business. It's not the only thing that matters. It's not a metric to use against yourself or to make yourself wrong or that measures your worth, but it is a metric that determines just what you have coming through your business. If you can pay your team, if you can pay your coach, if you can pay yourself, all of these things that are actually important in business. If you're in business for profit, if you're not in business for profit, that is absolutely okay. But I'm assuming if we're having this conversation, you're in business for profit. And then looking at things like money and sales and having goals around that is just a very neutral thing. Just like if you're getting in shape, let's say I'm a runner. If I'm just running for fun, I don't need to necessarily have goals around that. If I'm running a race for fun, I don't necessarily need to have goals around that. If I'm running a marathon because I want to complete the marathon, right, I probably need to have some goals around how far I'm running, because that's what's going to help me actually achieve that goal and finish that goal. Just like if I want to be a competitive runner, just like we want to be a business for profit, right? I'm probably going to have some metrics I want to look at in my training that are going to help me reach that competitive goal of mine. And so I think we just do ourselves such a disservice when we're taking a really big part of business out the window, or we're deciding we're not going to look at it or talk about it or put a goal around it because it doesn't feel good. And I'm trying to think, I'm just going to say it the way I think it. I know this is not what everyone wants to hear, but I think we're just in such a funny place in business where we're like just trying to coddle everyone and not like, we just don't want to ever feel bad, and we want to try to set things up that like never feel bad. And I think when it comes to business, it's just okay to sometimes not feel okay. Of course, we don't want everyone having a trauma response or not to feel regulated in their system, and those are real things. And I have so much compassion and empathy and tools to support someone around that. And I'm not by any means saying let's blow someone's stress, like, nervous system out. And it's also okay to set a stretch goal. It's also okay to talk about money. It's also okay to talk about things that maybe don't feel good and to be uncomfortable and to not feel good all the time, as a way to learn how to get regulated in those things, to have those conversations, to show up, to treat your business like a business, and to learn how to get regulated around talking about money or having those goals. And that, I think, when it comes to the money goals and planning, is something that I'm always thinking about. And so I do set income goals, and I do encourage my clients to set income goals, because I think it's just helpful to have on the dashboard to know. And I think about it in two ways: to know, first and foremost, what is sort of the number we expect in business, and that we really need sort of as a baseline to keep the lights on and to pay you whatever you need to be paid to really take care of yourself. That's the whole goal. That's the whole goal for all of us as business owners. And so I really see that as a more traditional, if we think about like financial projections goal. And especially if you've been in business for a couple of years, you can, like, I know that if I don't change anything in my business, I kind of know what I can expect to bring into my business, and I can then make strategic decisions and plans in terms of what I'm going to pay myself, what I'm going to put aside for taxes, what we have to allocate towards team, towards investments, etc. Of course, if you're brand new in business, these are not going to be numbers you have access to. And so then it's more looking at, well, what would be kind of that like baseline your business needs that we're going to solve for and set a plan around to to create. So that's kind of the first income planning number we're looking at. And then the other thing I really love to encourage clients to look at, that I would encourage you to play with too, is picking a stretch income goal. And everyone's different. Some people put a lot of pressure on this. I really like to find that number that does feel a little stretchy, that doesn't feel like if I just keep doing the same thing, this is what I'm going to reach in business. What does feel a little stretchy? What feels a little exciting? What feels like I can get my brain behind this number? And also, I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to hit it. So this isn't just like, I'm going to rub a genie and like manifest and hope this number falls from the sky, but we're kind of looking at first what's practical, what are we kind of expecting, and then what would be a stretch past that. And the reason I encourage you, and this goes into the planning aspect of things, to set this number is what we were just talking about. I do think sometimes we almost play small as a form of avoidance or self-protection. And I really think there's so much benefit to stretching outside your comfort zone and to setting a number as a goal that does feel like a stretch, and knowing it's okay if you don't reach that income goal. It's okay if you get disappointed, but because you don't reach that goal. But what we don't want to do is run business from a place of, I don't set goals because I'm so scared I'm going to be disappointed. I'm so scared I'm going to fail. I'm so scared I'm not going to be able to hit that. I just want to be able to always set goals I know I can achieve, because then I feel really good about myself, because then we're never ever stretching. And what I find really powerful around those stretch goals is that's where you also see the mindset work, the noise that's coming up for you in business. And it really becomes more of a mindset tool to stretch your mindset and to stretch and look at what are the fears that are coming up? What is the noise that's coming up? What are the stories that are coming up there? What is the resistance that's coming up for you? So you know what work to do there to stretch into, and who you can really step into becoming more of over the next year. I wrote a post about this in the Facebook group last week. And I think that is more really than the goal under a stretch goal. It's not even about hitting that income goal. It's so much more about the mindset work and what you unwind on the way to holding that goal all year long. I'm just checking to see. No comments or questions. So let me know if this is making sense. If you do have a question around any of this, we'll break this down in terms of how to plan around that. But I put this in the email. What I think is helpful to hear with this is, when you set goals in this way, income-wise, what I can share from my business is last year I had kind of our practical, realistic goal I knew we were going to reach, and we did. And then I also had a stretch income goal, which I put in the email for this live. Spoiler alert, we did not reach. And I was like, what happens when you don't reach an income goal? And what I can say is nothing happened negatively. Like literally nothing changed in my world at all. One day was exactly the same to the next. But what did change, because I was willing to set that goal, and I was willing to stretch, and I was willing to be disappointed if I didn't get that goal. I actually wasn't at all, and I know we will reach it. I've just removed the timeline didn't happen in the timeline I wanted. But I think what did happen when I didn't reach that goal is I grew exponentially as a business owner, because I was willing to have that goal. I was willing to stretch into that goal. I was willing to think about, who did I need to be to make that amount of money? Who did I need to step into? What things did my business need for me to be able to step into that? And it helped me to identify, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, some of the planning my business really needed to be able to hold that kind of revenue. And so while I didn't reach that in the timeline I had set last year, we reached our kind of baseline. I knew we were going to reach this goal. We didn't reach our stretch goal. What we did do is grow exponentially as a business, and I grew exponentially as a business owner and as a coach because of that goal. And I don't know, because I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't set that goal, because I did. But I imagine had I not set that goal, it would have been similar to my husband. I'm sure he would have read books, but I don't think he would have read 113, right? And I think, yes, I would have grown last year, but I don't know that I would have grown in the specific ways that I did as a business and as a business owner, had I not been willing to stretch that way and been willing to see it's almost not about reaching the goal, but who you become in the process of holding that goal, and removing the timeline and knowing it will happen in a year or it'll happen in 2 years. Like that part is okay there. So I hope that makes sense, but that feels really important to speak to, because again, whether you set a stretch goal or not, you don't have to, but I think there is something to noticing if you're resisting even setting an income goal, or resisting setting a stretch income goal, what that resistance is, what that story is. Because my guess is, without coaching everyone one-on-one here, my guess is if there is resistance there, if there is avoidance, if it doesn't feel good, that probably gives you some insight into the mindset work around money, around your relationship with money, and around your relationship with your business and your self-trust with your business, and your relationship with success and your trust with your success and what you're capable of. There's probably some indication there of what's coming up for you that might be really valuable to do some work around. So I hope that makes sense. And I think, just to kind of put a button on that piece there, what I would invite everyone to play with is, can you play with setting an income goal that both feels, yes, very realistic, very practical, so like this is just what we expect the business to generate. If you're brand new to business, I invite you not to do that, and to instead focus on making your first $1,000, booking your first client, right? We don't know yet. We don't have the data yet to see what your business brings in. But if you've been in business for, at least a year, and you have some of that data, you kind of know what your business is generating, right? Can you set that sort of practical, realistic goal for yourself? And then can you also set that stretch goal, and then use that stretch income goal more as what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like the beacon, the focal point for your mindset work, and to see it as more of a purpose for that than anything else, and then to also use it to help you get clear on what your business needs from you to be able to step into who you need to become, but also to reach that goal. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. I want to talk the planning side a little bit, and I'm just seeing here. I still can't tell if this happened last time. Hopefully I'm not just live on my business page, but I think it says that it says I'm live in my business group. It's so funny, y'all. I told myself this was talking about planning that didn't work out. This was going to be the year that I was going to figure out technology a little bit better for our lives, and apparently that's just not actually, I have not manifested that yet. But it's a very funny thing where I can't exactly tell what's going on, but I'm assuming this is good. And if not, we'll find it and we'll pin it to the top of the group. Okay, so we talked about setting those two income goals. Let's talk about planning a little bit. And I wanted to share about kind of how I think about those income goals, which we just talked about, and then what I'm talking about and supporting clients with, and kind of what works and what doesn't work when it comes to their business planning. And so when we're looking at those goals, like, a goal is nice. And what I think happens so often this time of year, and I think what can happen, I'm all for manifesting. I love manifesting. I'm all about the woo, but I think sometimes we can get so caught up in the manifesting side of things where we're just caught up in the like wishing, wanting, and not the grounded, practical strategy and action that supports the goal that we are wanting to manifest, and finding that way to bring it together. And I have just seen in business, I've been in business for, March will be 7 years. I have literally been on thousands and thousands and thousands of coaching calls at this point. I have supported clients from 0 to 6 figures, 0 to multi 6 figures. I've supported clients to making over $1 million and everywhere in between. And what I have seen across the board is, the more you're also planning and spending time planning and putting a strategic plan and showing up for that, and the less you're wishing around your income goals, or like just like hoping to manifest something, and the more you're taking that decision and deciding on an income goal and deciding that something is yours, and then marrying that with what is the practical strategy and action your business needs for you to reach that decision, and deciding to show up for that, the more likely you are to blow your own damn mind and to have those really epic results you want. I find we just tend to like pendulum swing one way or the other in our space, and I really see it's that combination that allows you to get what you want. And when it comes to planning for your business, this is every time of the year, not just this time of the year. But I think sometimes we just get caught around the numbers. So we like talked about those income goals, but I find we can almost just get looped around, like, I'm gonna make 10K months, I'm gonna make 10K months, I'm gonna make 10K months, and then or I'm gonna make $1 million, whatever that is, and we lose again, like, great, that is the goal, and then now how can we almost like park the goal to the side here, use that as the focal point, and look at what does your business need practically to be able to generate that kind of revenue. And I think that's where a lot of people stop short on planning, and or I think it's just noisy in our online space. Let's just be very honest. I think it's just very easy to start looking at shiny objects and like what you think you need to reach those income goals, instead of really looking at your business to tell you what you need and what you need to focus on and what you need to put a plan around to be able to reach those income goals. So with my clients, what we're doing is we're looking specifically at them and their business, and if they have an income goal, what their business is telling them they need next to be able to reach those goals, what gap they need to close. And I'll use myself as an example. So last year in business, for me, yes, I had an income goal. Yes, we had like both the realistic income goal, the big income goal, but then I also had to look at, and what does my business actually need from me? Like, who do I need to be? Absolutely on the mindset side of things. And what does my business need from me to be able to sustainably create that income goal? And really what I needed to close in terms of the gap, and really what I was focused on, was solving a capacity problem. I overbooked myself the year before unintentionally. I know that's a good problem to have, but that's a genuine thing. And looking and really getting clear on what my pathway to scaling is, which I've been clear on, but we tested we tested a couple things last year. And the other thing my business really needed from me to be able to close that gap was a lot of things on the back end, was tightening up my team and my support and systems and processes, and a lot of things that no one will ever see on the front end of business. And so what ended up just to explain what I'm talking about here is, yes, we had those income goals, and those became a focal point for us to look at, great, what does the business need to be able to reach those goals? And then it kind of, all the planning kind of had nothing to do with money at all, and everything to do with, great, and what gap do we need to close in the business? What does the business need next to be able to sustain and to be able to thrive, so that it can, of course, hit those next income goals? And so it is a form of reverse engineering, but it wasn't looking at, let's say my income goal wasn't $1 million last year, but let's just say it wasn't just looking at what do I need to sell to make $1 million. That actually would have been so out of alignment and actually not served me and my business. I might have been able to reverse engineer that and figure out what I could do to make $1 million. I know exactly what to do to make $1 million. I also know to make $1 million in a year, a lot of things that I'm just simply willing not to do that aren't in alignment for me personally and my business model and my work and my zone of genius and how I want to show up and how I want to live my life. And so we just look at, and the reason I'm sharing this is because I think traditionally a lot of what we do when we're looking at planning is just reverse engineering and figuring out, if I want $1 million, what are the steps? What are the things I need to sell? How do I reach that? And I mean, that's pretty simple, right? Like, we can all, I'm sure most of us can figure that out. And I can, again, like I know if I wanted to make $1 million this year, not that we can't make $1 million with my business and my business model, and I'm willing for it to take longer in my business because of the revenue share and profit share model that we use. And if I wanted to have that be sped up, I know exactly the levers to press and what to do there and how to reverse engineer that. And I know exactly why I don't want to do any of that. And that's where I'm saying this over and over again, but I think it's just so crucial, because I think this is a trap people can fall into. And then you're closing the wrong gap in your business, or you're reverse engineering in a way that will work, but it won't work sustainably year after year because it's so out of alignment. And so what I really work on my clients with is, yes, that income goal, but also looking at for them, for their zone of genius, for their lifestyle, for how they want to show up, for what feels good and integrity for them, for the business model they want to sell. Like, what is the pathway? What is the reverse engineering for them that works to reach their goals? And then what are the right gaps to close? Or as Lacey Seitz, my coach, says, what's the right problem to solve? And what do we actually need to address? What does the business actually need from them to be able to create that? I'll give a couple other examples there, but I hope this is making sense, where if we're just looking at the income goal, I think you can almost miss the things your business is telling you it needs from you. And if you can, yes, hold that income goal, but also come really neutrally to your business will always tell you what it needs, and your business will always tell you what it needs. And it might not look like the quick path to that income goal, but that's always what's going to long-term allow you to take the steps that will sustainably have you reach your income goal. Empty scene. Jordan says, hi, Kim, hopping on as long as my kids will let me. Yay, I can see messages. Jordan, I've been having like all the tech things. Sarah says, making perfect sense. Thank you for saying that. And I love you both. And Happy New Year. But I'm glad that is both making sense. So, and I think with this, what's coming up for me is just seeing how this, then going back to those income goals, this is how you don't just like randomly like pluck a goal from the sky and like wish for something. This is how suddenly you can have a practical, realistic income goal and that stretch income goal, but really have it grounded and tethered into reality and into like what you actually need and who you need to be mindset energetically wise, but also what you practically need to do to be able to reach this. And instead of like, I think when we're just like wrapped around like the wishing, wanting, that's when we start thinking we're missing something or looking what everyone else is doing or think we need to do all of these other things. And usually your business will tell you there's usually like one or two core things most people need to focus on and tighten up. So this way you can look at the big picture, but then also look at what do you actually need to get there. So with clients, I think there's a couple, two things here I'll touch on that I think can be helpful to think about. So let's just say your goal was $500,000 is the number we keep using. So let's just say it's $1 million. I think what's helpful there, then if you're not just, okay, like now I'm just going to manifest my way to $1 million and chant, I'm going to make $1 million every day. If instead we're taking this approach where it's like, great, what does my business need from me? What is my business telling me I need to reach $1 million? We can look at what offers make sense for you. What is the simplest path that gets you to $1 million? What's the aligned pricing that works for you? How do we need to position you so that you can be $1 million business owner? What's the mindset trash that's coming up around receiving, making, having $1 million? These are all the things we're going to focus on. And we can then look at sales goals. If you're going to make $1 million in a year, what are the sales goals and the numbers we need to hit each quarter or each month, depending on what we're focusing on, right? We can start to get like reverse engineering that way, but it's specific to your goal, and specific to your business. And then we can look at process goals, which are the things you actually have control over. And also look really practically at things like, let's just say you're in your first year in business and you have $1 million business goal, and that's absolutely possible. I have seen people do that. But let's say you're selling a $39 masterclass and you have a small audience, right? Then your business can tell you what you probably need. I'm not saying this is the case for everyone. There are people who can make $1 million with a small audience their first year in business with a $39 offer. And most likely your business is going to tell you we need to take a look at, and the gap for us to close is probably having an offer suite and an offer with a price point that's going to make it a little easier with the audience you have, with the reach you have, to reach $1 million in a year. Because I can't do the math. Someone else will have to do what is 39 divided by $1 million. That's a lot of people. It's probably far more people than in your audience, or your business is going to tell you, great, if you want $1 million in a year and you want to stick with that $39 offer and you don't want to change your price point or anything else, then we know the gap for us to close is probably more just getting clear on how do we blow up your visibility in your audience and what is the strategic way that makes sense to do that. Because yes, you can do that with ads, but is that going to cut into your profit margin with the $39 offer, right? We can start to solve the right problem here, close the right gap to reach your income goal, instead of what I think happens so often is we either set the income goal and we just like try to affirmation our way there. And I love affirmations. I'm not hating on affirmations. I use affirmations, but I use them along with a lot of other real mindset work that's getting to the root of the problem, and also with practical strategy and action. And if we're just holding that big income goal, but we have no plan on how to get there, or we have a plan, but it's just the plan that we arbitrarily got online because that's what someone else did, where we have no context on if that'll work for you and your business, right? We don't even know if that's what's going to get you to that goal. And then it's really easy to be like, oh, well, I suck. Like I suck at manifesting, or my mindset must be bad. And it might not even be that your mindset's bad or wrong, or that there's an issue with mindset. It might just be that there's not a plan that makes sense for you and your business. I feel like I'm a little on a soapbox, but hopefully that's making sense. So I'll use another example here. If you have a goal to make 10K a month, and let's say your offer is, let's say you sell one-on-one, and your offer is $1,000, right? And that's selling 10, you would need 10 one-on-one clients to make $10,000 a month. Let's say that's your income goal, right? And then we have a sales goal of maybe we want to sell 10 spots, right? That's the place we can get really clear and practical around putting a plan into place and getting clear on, great, if that's our sales goal, what is your business telling you we need to be able to reach that sales goal? What's kind of the gap we need to close there? And that's going to look different for everyone. For some people, that might be mindset, right? I have a client who came to me who had maybe one client and got fully booked within 3 months and making six figures within 6 months. And this was kind of the situation, but the gap for them to close and what their business was telling them was, it was simply getting their mindset on board with it was possible and getting their mindset on board with it was okay to make offers, right? That was the right thing. That's what we put the plan around and the work around. I have another client who's similar position and blew up in a similar way and got fully booked in 3 months and replaced their corporate salary. But what their business was telling them and what was going on for them and the gap we needed to close and put a plan around was literally just having a practical, strategic way for them to get visible, market, and have a sales process. And like, that was the plan we put in place. And so I'm reflecting this here because otherwise I think it's just so easy for us to just have the income goal with no plan and then make the income goal wrong or think we suck, and or to kind of like think we suck at manifesting. Manifesting takes action too. We got to meet the universe halfway, or to have a plan but to have almost like the wrong part of the plan as opposed to what your business is telling you you need next to reach those goals. And again, using myself as an example, if I had seen, okay, the way you are supposed to make $1 million in your business is to launch a group program and to sell masterminds every month, and that's the gap to close, I could have spent all of last year putting plans into place and putting action into place for things that not only don't serve me and what's in alignment for me and my version of success, which we talk a lot about here, but also wouldn't have had me address what my business actually needed, which was solving a capacity problem because we were overbooked, right? Looking at the model that works for me to scale and looking at some back end things that we really need to get into place so I could have support so that I could serve more clients one-on-one. And then when we solved that capacity problem, right, when I got the team and back end in more place, I can actually open up capacity, which allows me to bring in more revenue. Like, that was actually the planning and the gap to close. And we can see how let's say I had spent all of last year selling, I'm not hating on group programs or masterminds, by the way, I have plenty of clients who make money that way, but I'm using myself as an example and I only have a one-on-one coaching model. I could have actually burnt myself out. I would have never solved the team back end but just like refine that so I could have been more supported. I would have put more on my plate. Maybe I would have made more income, probably not, because I would have taken away capacity from my one-on-one, which is where most of my revenue comes from. And we can see that could have been a great plan for one of my clients, for another person. It would have been the very plan that we could have reverse engineered from $1 million that would have actually taken me further away from my from my income goals, from my way of reaching those income goals, and probably could have had me, if anything, make less income overall. So I hope that makes sense, and why I really want to invite everyone here, yes, to have those income goals, but then to really get your eyes on your own paper, get in your lane, really look at what your business is telling you. What's the planning that makes sense for you? What's the gap that makes sense for you? What is your business telling you to focus on? Because it's going to look different for pretty much everyone. And was there anything else I wanted to say on that one? Oh, this is just another good example of this. So then with this, when you're looking at your planning, and what I see works really well is to hold your income goal and to really see your stretch income goal really as more the opportunity for your mindset work. Like, what's all the trash that comes up around that big income goal? I love stretchy income goals for that, because I see when my system is like, oh, I know I could reach this, but almost like I've got some of the old noise coming up. It's like, great, this is the exact right income goal for me to pick, because this is what's actually going to work my edges and have me work through the stories or the fears or the resistance coming up there, right? And so I really see, like, yes, have a practical, realistic income and sales goal. I think that's just like practical business, but on the like stretching yourself side, have that stretch goal. And then when we're looking at then the planning that we just talked about, if you can break that down into process goals, because this is what we started to talk about, I think this is what really sets business owners up for success, because process goals are really what you can control. A process goal as opposed to an outcome goal. So an outcome goal is $1 million in a year. It is a 100K month. It is a 10K month, right? That's an outcome goal. A process goal is all of the practical steps that you get clear on that you're going to take to help you reach that outcome goal. With outcome goals, oftentimes they're only partially in our control, right? I think we can decide on income. I think we can get a strategy in place. We can take action. I know at this point, like if I do these things in my business, we're reliably going to generate this sort of revenue, right? And then if we're looking at a stretch goal, we're working towards that, and we know that's possible, but there's always some element that's sort of out of our control as a human. We all think we're like in control of everything, but we're not actually. So that's that outcome goal we don't have all of the control around. Process goals, though, those are the things you're showing up for. And I think what's really nice there is this is a place you can create some safety and control. As business owners, we like to be in control, we like to feel in control, but it's also something you can control in terms of showing up for and in terms of celebrating your small wins. I have clients celebrate their process goals all of the time because that is something they can put a plan around, they can show up for, and then they can celebrate, and then they can get that dopamine hit, and then they can really enjoy the process of reaching their income goal. And here is the secret. This is like the secret. There are no secrets, but this is the secret to business and making more money. When you can fall in love with the process and when you can train your brain to get those dopamine hits from celebrating, from reaching a process goal, that's how you stay in the game long enough, and that's how you love the process long enough to reach any income goal. I feel like we talked about this on a podcast, but maybe I wrote this in a post, or maybe we talked about this on a live stream, but your brain literally gets dopamine hits when you reach goals and when you celebrate. And what I find happens for so many people is they just get addicted to the highs, and then that also means they feel crappy with the lows. But they're only getting that dopamine hit when they get the actual win, when they book the client, when they hit the 10K, the 100K month, right? Which is great. We are all about celebration here and celebrating the heck out of that and getting the benefit in your brain that helps you want to achieve more of that. And that is so, so, so important. Please don't hear that the wrong way. Celebrate the shit out of everything you do. And if you can learn to fall in love with the process and get your brain addicted, in air quotes, to the dopamine hits you get from your process goals, right? The way celebration works, the way your brain works, the way dopamine works is when you get that dopamine hit. I'm going off on a tangent here, but I hope this is interesting. Dopamine is it hits the reward center of your brain. It is the same part of your brain that is responsible for you getting addicted to substances. So if you're addicted to cocaine, if you're addicted to gambling, if you're addicted to scrolling on your phone, it is because you have learned to get a reward for doing an action. So if I do a line of cocaine, I feel like I'm always using drug examples, but they work. If I do a line of cocaine, that fires up the reward center of my brain. That releases dopamine. That tells my brain, this feels good. Do more of whatever that was to get that hit. Hopefully this is making sense, right? So that's how we get addicted to substances or to gambling. You can hack this in your brain, right? When you celebrate your wins. And so that's why it's great to celebrate all of your wins, because you're hacking that reward center in your brain and you're telling your brain, this feels good, do more of that thing that created that hit. What you can really do if you want, that's I think this is the secret for when you see business owners who have been in business for the long game, who are making all the wild amounts of money. Part of that is just because they've been willing to play the long game and stay in the process long enough. But I really believe part of that is also because they have learned how to hack their brain and get addicted to to enjoying the process, not just muscling through the process. And part of the way of doing that is basically giving yourself those dopamine hits and celebrating and enjoying the process, action, goals, and steps. And so this is a long-winded way of saying this is what really works in business when it comes to planning. If you can take everything we talked about with the income goals, those two types of income goals, get really clear on what kind of planning makes sense for your business, so you're closing the right gaps, so you're taking yourself on your own path. And then if you can within that really focus on those process goals and really celebrate the shit out of showing up for them and give yourself those dopamine hits for them, that is your secret sauce. Because when you can fall in love with the process, when you can get high on and addicted to the process goals, right? That's what makes you unstoppable, because those process goals you can control showing up for. And I know everyone knows this. Like the more you like half of my calls with clients is working their mindset around all of the resistance around showing up for process goals and loving the process. There's so much that crap that comes up there for everyone. Like it's just to normalize that, right? But when you can remove that resistance and actually fall in love with that and like literally wire your brain that way, you're unstoppable, because then you feel addicted to showing up for the things you can control, the levers you can control that generate results in your business. Then you're a lot less attached to the hits you need from, you don't need those big hits from the monetary goals as much. They'll still feel super sweet, but it's all going to feel like a win. And this is what keeps you in momentum and just makes it so much easier to actually reach those big income goals. Sarah says very interesting and very true. Thank you for joining my science class. And of course, like disclaimer, I'm obviously not a like psychiatrist or brain expert, but this is stuff I geek out on, and I think it's just a helpful way for us to think about when we're planning and what's working and what's not working. So I'm glad that made sense. So process goals, getting really clear on what the process goals are for you in your business, focusing on those, celebrating those. I would really say if you can focus on process goals over outcome goals and use your outcome goals more to do your mindset work, and then get clear on what's the plan your business needs and those process goals, that is going to serve you. That's what works in business planning. As soon as you get jacked up and wrapped around only the outcome goals, even though I think they're important to have, I think that's when people get spun out and start getting off of their own paper and ending up planning for things that are great plans, but not necessarily plans for their business, or spin themselves out or don't want to show up for the process. Okay, I want to talk about the two shadow sides real quick before we end, because I know I'm always wanted to chat and hang out with y'all forever. Also, is it Sarah, if you're live, can you tell me, is the screen, I'm using a new camera, is the screen blurry? I feel like it is, but anyway, Sarah says, no, it really breaks it down and makes a visual association. So glad that makes sense. Julie says, Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year, lady. How was your New Year? Everyone let me know too. How was everyone's New Year? I asked at the beginning of the live stream. I want to know, how was everyone's New Year and holiday? And then I will go into those shadow sides. It's blurry. Okay, I thought so. Let me see if, I don't know if it's the camera. I'm going to do, don't mind me for 1 second, y'all. Thank you, Sarah. Is that better maybe? It might just be the way I have this set up. All right, we're going to deal with a blurry-ish live for the end of the live, and then we'll just keep figuring tech. 2023 will be the year Kim gets her tech down. Do not hire me for technology, y'all. Hire me for mindset and strategy. Hire me for my brain, not for technology support. Okay, let's talk about the shadow side here with planning. So everything I said stands true. And I think with every positive, with every light, there is a shadow side. We talk about this a lot in the group. And so I think it's important while we're talking about planning, what works, what doesn't work. This is kind of the what doesn't work, and I think just some of the shadow side that comes up with planning. So there's two things that come up here for me. Hi, Miss Nala. So we're talking a lot about how successful people spend more time planning. That is just a fact that they have found. And I stand by that, and absolutely I spend more time planning, I think, than the average person. I'm very intentional with my planning. I'm very intentional with my clients around planning. I set time aside. I plan to plan, right? I have a meeting with my OBM every week. I'm like every day, you can see my planner here, right? Like all of this is true. And I think over planning also can become a way that business owners hide in plain sight. And so I think there's two ways this shows up. I think particularly for new business owners, what I would offer and what I would play with is, yes, planning is important. Plan to plan. Spend more time planning. And I would be just understanding that your business doesn't have probably enough data yet to tell you all of the answers, to give you all of the clarity. And most clarity comes through action. It's the gift we get on the other side of action. Just like confidence is a gift you get on the other side of action. I think so often with new business owners, what I'm supporting them with noticing and seeing and understanding is there's such this want to wait to take action on a plan, because we want to wait until we're confident. We want to wait until we have clarity on that plan. And especially when you're starting something new, that's just kind of the best stalling tactic ever, because confidence is not required to succeed. Confidence comes afterward. I know, don't like, that just sounds so counterintuitive, but I promise that's true. And right, I'm more confident now because I've done all the scary things in my business, but I had to be willing to not be confident to show up to do the scary things to get that confidence as a gift on the other side of that. Hopefully that part makes sense. But same with clarity, right? I have so much clarity in my business to put a plan around, but I have that clarity as a gift in my business because I've been in business for almost 7 years, and we have data and we have information, and I have tested so many fucking things, and I've been willing to show up and test and to collect that data and to fall on my face and to succeed gloriously, right? To have both. That clarity for our plan for this year, right? That comes from years previous years in business and all of that experience there. When you're starting out in business, most of what you're doing is a hypothesis. You remember science in high school, right? Or in college. Your hypothesis is an educated guess, and then you go out and you run a test and you collect your data, and then you get your information. That's where you get your clarity, and that's where you continue to plan from, right? This is what we want to play with in business. And so if you're new in business, or if you're seasoned in business and you're adding on a new offer, you're adding on a new platform, you're trying a new marketing strategy, you're scaling, that's sort of like being new in business, in that you're going to have more information and data than a brand new business owner, but it's still going to be a test. And so I think, yes, put a plan in place, but notice where there is this human want to overplan as a way to self-protect, as a way to avoid showing up, as a way to create safety, as a way to hide in plain sight, as a way to avoid rejection, as a way to avoid disappointment, as a way to avoid failure, right? We have a want where we think, if I just plan enough, if I just get enough clarity, if I can just come up with the perfect plan, nothing bad will happen in business. And that is the shadow side to everything we're talking about. Yes, plan. Successful people spend more time planning, and set aside some time to plan. Come up with a hypothesis, an educated test to run, and then go put that into action. I so often am encouraging my clients to take messy action, to build a plan, to build the plane as the plane is kind of in the air, because we can waste so much fucking time in business planning to plan to plan to plan to plan. And so I just want you to see, like, this is one of those situations where both sides are true. Plan to plan, absolutely. Plan, plan, plan. And also notice the planning to plan and plan can very, very, very quickly become self-sabotaging, the very reason you don't reach those income goals. And I think what's so fascinating, how you can know if this is possibly happening for you, is if you see people online making lots of money, and you're like, how the F are they making money? They're not doing anything right. They don't have a plan. They don't have a strategy. They're just showing up. They're just saying easy. If you're getting triggered by that, there's a good chance that you're an over planner, and that's why that's so frustrating to you, right? Like, that's usually an indication there. But that's just something I would invite everyone to notice, because yes, again, planning, all the planning, and also just be very mindful of that shadow side there, because then that becomes the place we want to stop planning and actually saying, F the plan, let's go out and take action instead, and let that action give us enough information to then put a plan around. Jordan says, doesn't look blurry, but I'm also packing lunches. Julia says it's not blurry, but it's cutting in and out for me. Oh, interesting. I wonder if which side that's on. Jordan says, great new year and excited for 2023. Me too. I think this is I always say this every year, but I think this is going to be a particularly good year. Doesn't look like we're packing lunches. I'm so impressed that you're packing lunches. I love that you do that in advance. Sarah says, happy new year. It was great. Looks pixelated. Resolution, maybe. It might be. I got one of those Logitech cameras because we were having so many issues with all the other things. So it could also be the camera. It could also be Facebook. Facebook and I have a very interesting thing going on here. Thank you all for problem solving with me and for telling me that feedback, because then I know what we can play with. Maybe I'll try my phone again next week, which was kicking me off a couple weeks ago. But going back to our shadow side here. So I think something, again, just to be mindful of, this isn't to say now we throw the baby out with the bathwater and we don't plan, but just to be mindful of that bothness there. Both sides of this are true. I would just notice and just pay attention to, where is planning serving me? Where is this me putting on my CEO hat and really treating my business like a business and getting really clear on what it needs and just putting some practical plan and strategy around that? And where is this a way that I'm actually hiding, avoiding, resisting, trying not to fail? Like, can I just be willing, and if that's what's going on, to run at things a little bit more and let them be a little messier? Because you can create a lot of success being very messy. The other shadow side with the planning piece here that I think is always important to think about, and that I support clients with quite a bit, but that I think particularly this time of year is just that much more relevant or prevalent, is noticing that it is very easy to put a plan around everything in this time of year, to see that your business needs 800 things from you, and to want to put a plan around all of those things, and to be like, okay, so this is the year we're going to do all of these different things in our business because these are all the different things my business needs, and essentially to try to do all the things. And so this is over planning in a different way, right? Oh, we were just talking about over planning in terms of like just wanting to like loop around the thinking and the planning, never getting to action. This type of planning is just wanting to create so many plans and so many things to do. And what I would really offer everyone here to play with is to see, I know I'm always saying this, but less is more. How can you do less better? How can you focus on the basic bitch shit in your business and do that better and refine that? How can you really play with the 80-20 in your business, which is the whole concept that 80% of your results come from 20% of your action, and really get clear on what is that 20% gap you need to close, you need to refine, you need to take action on, what we were talking about earlier, that's going to help you reach your goals that you can put process goals around. And really everything else just isn't shit to pay attention to. Excuse my French. I'm very cursy today, but I hope, Jordan, if you're making lunches, your kids aren't around. But these are just things that, yes, you can put a plan around, but those are also likely anything that falls outside of that 20%. Those are likely the very things in your business that if you put a plan around are actually going to move you further away from your income goals or cost you time and energy or money. And so the strategic planning here then, and the shadow side of this is just wanting to say yes to everything and to put a plan around everything your business needs. This is the place to notice that is a shadow side, that is a high. Everyone here is probably an overachiever, right? A high achiever, someone who's very driven, someone who's probably the type A, right? It's very, and I think this time of year, the reason I say it happens more this time of year is between New Year's goal setting and resolutions, and then all of the noise in our space that is telling you all the things to focus on this time of year and programs to buy, right? It's very easy to like create this laundry list. And so just to notice that is a shadow side here, and your job gets to be, let me put my CEO hat on, let me get back to neutral, let me get back in my lane, let me get clear on what my business needs, and to see what my business needs is going to really be, it's going to be a very small sliver, like 80, we're playing with that 80-20. For most people, it's going to be adding on 1 to 2 things max for the whole year, that if you're adding on something new. And for most people, it's also going to look like refining 1 to 2 core things in your business for the whole year. And putting the process and strategy, or putting the strategy and process around that. So if you have a lot more things on your list than that, it's very likely that you might just be trying to do all the things and thinking that's the way, like that's what you need to put a plan around. That's just what I would say, like just be mindful of checking in with that. That's probably a shadow side. There's likely some mindset opportunities if there's some shadow side stuff coming up here to dig into, and that's just great awareness, because then what you also know is most likely for you and your business, the planning and the work for you to reach your income goals this year might be looking at, why do I want to overplan? What is coming up for me there, right? What do I need to unhook from? What do I need to create safety around? What do I need to get regulated around? What do I need to trust? What do I need to know so that I can do less better, so that I can let go of this want to overplan, so that I can feel safe and I can trust myself and my business without all of this overthinking, overplanning, overpreparing. Right? And that's going to be more closing the gap on the mindset side of things versus, and it's just a great indication there, right? That's how you know it's a mindset lever, not a strategy lever. So put some plans in place to get support with the mindset side of things. And so I think that can just be a helpful gauge there. Let's see. Sarah says, I'm on my phone actually jogging, so it could be that in Facebook. We're going to blame it on Facebook. Jordan says, my girl said, I saw her in the box and she's beautiful. Oh my God, I love your girls so much. And they're the sweetest. Thank you. Thank you to your girls. I appreciate that. I appreciate the all the feedback on the tech side of things. Let me know if y'all have any questions around this. I hope this was helpful, and I hope this was a helpful way to think about planning for the year ahead, planning any time of year in business. What are some of the practical things as business owners we do want to think about to have that reminder that money is neutral in business? This is something we don't want to bury our head in the sand around. if you don't like money goals, really I would invite you to play with how can you get more comfortable looking at money, setting an income goal, seeing that as just a neutral part of business, but then also playing with those two types of money goals. What is that really practical goal that you know your business can generate to support your business expenses and your personal needs? What is that stretch income goal that you can really play with for more of a mindset tool to help you expand who you're being, to notice what's coming up for you around that edge, and then looking at your planning from that CEO lens, from that neutral, grounded place that's really taking a look at what is my business telling me it needs, what is my path, what is the gap I need to close, and how can I put some process goals around that, and practicing celebrating those so that you can really enjoy the process. And just noticing for those shadow sides that come up for you, and know the shadow sides to planning, to everything in business, is normal. Everything that's light has a shadow side. That is just normal. But just notice where those are coming up, because then that gets to be also a mindset opportunity, not a strategic planning opportunity. Just so you can know that difference, so you are closing the gap in your business that makes sense for you to hit those income goals. And then again, if you left is not a word. If you left a comment today or anytime between now and Friday, our giveaway will be that coaching session. I think that'll probably be one of the last full-length coaching sessions we're giving away, but keep an eye out for those free coaching sessions we are going to be offering. I'm really looking forward to being able to offer those. We will do those as long as we can capacity wise, but I do want to offer those this year and really put my money where my mouth is and do more than just sarcastically speak to what I'm seeing in the industry, and be a little bit more of a stand for offering those and helping people see the value of coaching and having that experience. So we will have those going out in the group. And then again, if you want support around putting those strategic plans into business, getting clear on, yes, your income goals, but what is the plan that works for you and your business? What is the gap for you to close? Whether that is mindset, or that's messaging, or that's marketing, or that's sales, or that's a combination of that, or getting clear on the offer and price point that works for you. We do have a coaching intensive available this month, and I will drop discovery call link for you. I would love to have you. Oh, and we've got so many announcements. And then that reminder, we do have our free masterclass coming up this month. Leverage your unique millionaire money blueprint. I will drop a link for that. I think it's going to be epic. I cannot wait to share that with you. It will be turned into a paid offer, so sign up while it's free. The playbook alone, even if you don't join live, the playbook alone, I think, could absolutely change the way you look at your relationship with money and the way you're engaging with money and your mindset around money. So I think signing up for that alone is totally worth it, and it's free, so you got nothing to lose. I am just seeing, do we have any other comments? Jordan says, thank you, Kim. Thank you for being here. I love you all so much. Happy New Year. I can't wait to have a year of lives and hanging out and digging into all the good, fun business mindset and strategy things. If anyone has something specific now or on the replay they know they want me to touch on this year, a topic you have a question around, or something you know you want support around and you want me to cover more, I do these for you. So leave me a comment here, DM me, you can put a post in the group. Those are always great things for me to know, and I will do my best to address those. All right, love you all, and I will be back next week. Bye.